All right. If it sounds like we've been giggling, it's because we have been before we even started press record, because we're welcoming back one of our favorite uncles of this podcast, the still semi-retired, I guess I should say.
Maybe even more retired now.
Maybe even more retired now. Which look, I don't blame him. I kind of wish I was retired after where we're at right now.
Yeah, Mike, on a scale of 1 to Tom Brady, how retired are you?
Ooh, good question.
Well, I will say this. I deleted Twitter off of my phone after the game.
No
way.
Well, I was going to say, go follow at Mike Miracles on Twitter because then you could follow at see Mike Herndon there. But if he's already deleted it, I don't know. Maybe just go and check and see if the account's still available. And if so, follow him until he returns. But it is Mr. Mike Herndon, Uncle Mike Herndon. Mike, I'm not going to ask how are you because I already know the answer to that. But what I will ask is, to start off things, does it hurt more or less knowing that the Cincinnati Bengals are playing in the Super Bowl?
Yeah, it's a good question. I kind of hate that I'm going to have to watch that team play again during the Super Bowl, which I always look forward to the Super Bowl, even when the Titans aren't in it, which is, almost always. And I enjoy watching it, but I don't particularly enjoy watching the team that ruined my hopes and dreams play.
Yeah.
And especially when I can't root for vengeance, because I cannot bring myself to root for the LA Rams, the only team that's ever beaten the Titans in a Super Bowl.
That's true.
And also just an unlikable team. Like, the Rams are unlikable. I don't like anything about them. I don't like their owner. I don't like McVay and his overuse of hair gel. I don't like Aaron Donald, who has a tendency to choke people all the time, but nobody ever calls him out for it because he's Aaron Donald. I don't really like anybody on the Rams. So I would normally root against the team that had ousted the Titans, but I can't even do that. So way to go, Bengals. You ruined the whole thing for me.
Hope you're happy, Bengals.
Do you feel like vindicated at all? Like knowing like, okay, well, the Bengals just went into Arrowhead, beat the Chiefs, and so they're good enough to win a Super Bowl? Or is it one of those things where it's like, damn it, if the Bengals could freaking go into Arrowhead against the Chiefs and win, the Titans definitely could have taken care of the Chiefs at home?
I still think, and this is going to sound crazy, I still think the Titans were the best team in the AFC this year. And it's hard to shake that feeling now, because I don't think the Bengals were the better team on the field when they played in Nashville. I think the Titans beat themselves. They shot themselves in the foot over and over and over again. We've seen this team do that way too much, and I guess maybe that's why I shouldn't call them the best team in the AFC, but I feel like their best, the Titans' best, was better than anyone else's best this year in the conference. And maybe that's the way that I should put it. And the inconsistencies ultimately kept them from reaching their ultimate goal. And it's super frustrating that that's the case, right? Because I feel like we were robbed of an epic celebration in Nashville with the AFC Championship game being there and beating the Chiefs to go to the Super Bowl. Like, can you imagine what that scene would have felt like? I feel like we were robbed. It's a travesty.
Yeah.
It is definitely a travesty. And I've been thinking this, ever since the game ended on Sunday, that the Bengals run, the Super Bowl run that they're on, I think shows two things, one good and one bad for the Titans. The good thing being that, it's not always the best team that makes it that far. Teams can get hot. We saw the Braves do it in the MLB. I'm not going to stop talking about that. I'm actually wearing a Braves shirt right now.
Yeah. All right, dude. Cool.
But the downside is that now the Titans have a whole nother team to worry about, and a quarterback that looks like he's going to be around for, the next 10, 15 seasons, causing all kinds of hell for the Tennessee Titans. But what do you think about that? Are you kind of with me that, the Chiefs now appear to be mortal? Mahomes has lost to a quarterback besides Tom Brady for the first time in the playoffs. And, at home as well, he's knocked off from his from their AFC throne 4 straight years with those guys in the conference championship. Isn't it good to kind of see new blood in the Super Bowl?
I am kind of excited that we're not watching the Chiefs play in yet another Super Bowl. And look, if it wasn't for, them personally ruining my football season, I would like this Bengals team. I mean, Joe Burrow is super easy to root for. Like, I love that guy. I love the way he plays. I love his personality. I love everything about the guy. I like watching Jamar Chase and T. Higgins and all these, players that they've got on offense, and their defense has been fantastic. I think it's fun. I do think it's fun to have like some fresh blood in the Super Bowl. Stafford versus Burrow. It's a different matchup. It's not the same old stuff. So I'm kind of excited about that, but it is tempered by the fact that, the AFC is so loaded with young superstar quarterbacks now, because you have to put Burrow in the superstar category now. I just think you do. And you've already got Mahomes, you've already got Allen, you've got Herbert, who's on his way. And if Deshaun Watson ends up in the AFC, I still think, massage issues aside, he is still one of the best quarterbacks in the NFL when he's on the field. So,
all right, what about with massage issues not aside?
Well, that makes him one of the most. I don't know. He's probably still talented enough to win you a Super Bowl as a quarterback, but can he stay on the field and not suspended is a totally different question.
Yeah, definitely gets his way. That's for sure.
Another part of what makes it so frustrating for Titans fans, I think, and I think I can say this speaking on behalf of the fan base, you have a young quarterback like Joe Burrow, very swaggy, that team's easy to like, but you can't cheer for them because they knocked you out. But on the other side, you have the Rams, who have sold their soul along with every good draft pick they have for the next 10 seasons in order to make the Super Bowl this season. So it's kind of, for me, finding the lesser of two evils on who I'm going for, in 2 weeks. I don't know. I'm still going to have a tough time deciding.
I think I'm leaning Bengals. I can't sit here. I mean, for one, I don't think it would be great for the NFL to have 2 straight Super Bowls won by a team in their own stadium. Like, it hadn't happened. It feels like the Rams are just trying to knock off what the Bucs did last year, and I don't want to see it happen.
Well, that's what Hollywood. That's what Hollywood does. They see what works, and then they just try and cash in on it as much as
they throw as much money as they can at it.
With a lesser done sequel.
It's like Bucs 2 Electric Boogaloo. I mean,
right.
What are we doing here?
Right.
So and just Stan Kroenke, I can't root for any Stan Kroenke team. I just can't do it. So I think I'm Team Bengals, but ultimately I don't really care who wins the game necessarily. I hope it's another good game. We've actually been lucky to have good games each of the last 2 rounds after a embarrassing blowout round, which ironically the Bengals were like the one team that didn't blow out their first round opponent. And we maybe are one Derek Carr ridiculous spike away from not even talking about the Bengals at all past that week. So not to bring up more hard realities for Titans fans, but
I would have much rather have played the Raiders. That's for sure. Of course, I would have much rather played the Steelers. I would have much rather played literally anyone. And now I'm not just saying that after the fact. I felt that way going into it, but. Mike, earlier you said that you still believe that, obviously, like when the Titans are not shooting themselves in the foot, they are the best team in football. And I tend to agree with that. Like, I think talented wise, when they're at their best, they are tough to beat. Obviously, they were tough to beat throughout the regular season. They go through of the 8 remaining divisional playoff teams, they were 4-0 against them. So they were a very strong team throughout the season. Now, here's something I don't think we are going to agree on. And I think it's an important conversation. It's a conversation that all Titans fans need to have with either a spouse, a loved one, or a therapist. And that is the conversation about Ryan Tannehill. A lot of people in the streets right now just absolutely hating on Tannehill worse than they're hating on anyone in orange and black. And I want to know first and foremost, I guess, what is your take on 17?
All right. So I was willing to kind of overlook the playoff stuff for the first 2 seasons, right? I think Tannehill has proven he's a very good regular season quarterback. He's not elite, but nobody's ever argued that he was. I think he's in that top 10-ish range among NFL quarterbacks, and I still do believe that's true. But I think he's very much in the kind of, and you could make a Super Bowl, I think, with him. I think you could, but it's such a fine tightrope to walk, because I feel like when the lights shine brightest, he comes up the smallest, and that's so hard to play a style of football that you can win in spite of your quarterback in the playoffs. And I just feel like the first playoff run, obviously it's been well chronicled. The game against the Patriots, the game against the Ravens, he hardly threw the ball, and they won mostly because Derrick Henry was steamrolling defenses, and then they ran up against the Chiefs, and Henry got stopped, and so did the Titans. Now, I tend to think nobody was really beating the Chiefs during that run. I think they were the best team for a reason. But I think, you look last year, the Ravens game, it's more of the same. They stuffed Derrick Henry, and the Titans just don't have that counterpunch to go to. And then you kind of see it again for a third straight year with the Bengals. And I'm starting to think that this is just who he is. He is not good enough to carry you on the biggest stages. I don't know if it's a nerves thing with him. And I honestly don't even put all the interceptions on him. I think Downing has a lot to do with the interception specifically. And sure, Tannehill made some good throws as well. The dime to A.J. Brown obviously was one of the best throws of the playoffs. But yeah, it's hard for me to really feel great heading into any playoff game with Ryan Tannehill at this point, because it just feels like we've got to see it at this point. I mean, you can't do the same thing for 3 years and it not become like prove it mode. Prove that you're different than what I think you are now. And I think he's a good regular season quarterback. I don't know that he's going to be a guy that can take you to the promised land unless everything else is perfect around him. I mean, you got to have a great defense. You got to have the great running game. You got to have amazing receivers, and it's all got to click. And I just think that's such a fine line to walk.
Now, if I would have asked you that question, could Ryan Tannehill take the Titans to a Super Bowl prior to that Saturday afternoon, probably at noon on that Saturday before playing the Bengals, would your answer have been different?
I think I would have said that, yes, he can take them to a Super Bowl. Now, I don't know that I ever thought he could carry a team to a Super Bowl. I think he could be a cog in the wheel of a Super Bowl machine, right? I don't think he can be the engine that drives that machine. So I don't know that that's changed for me. But I guess my concern level as far as specifically his postseason performances is now raised, because that's a lot of bad playoff performances stacked up now. And, I just don't know how anyone can look at it.
It's two, if you want to, it's two bad playoff performances, and that's even if you want to count last year against the Ravens, which statistically wasn't terrible. It wasn't great, but it wasn't terrible. And then people want to point to the Khalif Raymond interception at the end where Khalif slips. Mm-hmm. Like, I don't know. I just feel like there's a lot of revisionist history going on amongst Titans fans with Ryan Tannehill. Like, going into Saturday, everyone's saying, "Oh, Titans are going to the Super Bowl." There's no doubt. And then all of a sudden, and he goes out and he shits the bed. It was probably one of the worst Tannehill starts we've seen. But even despite that, they still almost win. And now everyone's ready to show him the door. And so I guess my follow-up would be like, if Tannehill's not the guy, what's the answer here? Because there's a very small playoff window, and I don't think anyone's going to trade you Matthew Stafford for Jared Goff straight up with the Titans. So it's like, what's the answer? Like, I personally, my mind hasn't changed on Tannehill. We've seen him be great. We've seen him put up elite numbers. I agree with you. I think he's on average probably the 10th best quarterback in the sport, but we've seen him put up elite numbers under Arthur Smith. Then this year, his whole team gets injured. He loses Derrick Henry for half the season, and he still gets this team to a 1 seed. I guess I'm just confused, because I don't think Titans fans are really like, they're ready to show this guy the door. And you could argue that he's the second best, maybe even the best quarterback the Titans have ever had in franchise history.
Yeah, and I think you bring up good points there. And I do think there has been a lot of people who have just turned 180 on Tannehill. And I do think I would like if the Titans could find a better quarterback. That's always a good thing, right?
Well, yeah,
Obviously.
sure, definitely, right. But it's like, it's like
Yeah,
if I could, if I had $1 million, the Bare Naked Ladies sang. They didn't have $1 million when they sang it, though.
That's right. That's right. Now, and I will say, I don't think Russell Wilson, Aaron Rodgers, all these people, all the quarterbacks people are going to throw out all off season, and I'm already sick of it. I don't think it's realistic. I don't think it's going to happen. So I do think they're going to have Tannehill as the starting quarterback next year. And now, do I think they should start looking at, well, we need to have a contingency plan of like, hey, if we've hit our ceiling with this guy and we need someone else who can go to that next level, like what does that look like? Because it's probably not Logan Woodside. I think it would be smart for them to at least explore options. But I think in all realism, it's most likely Tannehill is the guy for 2022, and we'll see what he makes of it, and what they're able to put around him, obviously. But I do think one point that I'll make to kind of back up yours, Austin, is what would Titans fans be saying if their quarterback had a 21-3 lead in a game in a row, and then shit the bed in the second half, threw 2 interceptions, couldn't score a single point after halftime? Wouldn't they be saying fire that quarterback?
That's exactly the thing. If anything, seeing what that Bengals defense did to Patrick Mahomes and that insane offense in the second half of that game, I feel like that should peel back some of the hate and the disdain for that Titans fans have for Tannehill, because Patrick Mahomes threw 2 interceptions. I mean, that's against that same defense that Ryan Tannehill threw 3 against. So I don't know. I just feel like I just feel like, and then if you want to look at playoff performance, I don't want to do it, but Derrick Henry, where's he been? Like it's not like, are we ready to show him the door? No, of course not.
All right, hang on just a second.
Okay. All right. So if you're listening, I think we maybe keep this part in, Jack. I think
Mike said he had to pick up a package from FedEx.
Yes.
And we don't know if the contents of the package are legal or illegal, but that is where he's doing. He stepped out to grab a package.
And if you're watching on YouTube, you may have seen Mike's getup. Okay. First of all, dressed very well, dressed to the nines. Great. I love his jacket. But he's wearing sunglasses. He's giving off mad like Eric Church vibes right now.
By the way, Austin, watch closely when he comes back. I think he's been driving around this whole time.
Do you think so?
Let's pay attention when he gets back.
Either that or people were moving in the background.
One of the two, but it looked like the car was moving. We'll have to pay attention when he gets back. But
I just hope he doesn't come back with like a little white powder under his nose or something. Because he said he had to pick up a package from FedEx. Like he's like, hey guys, just so you know, like I may have to cut into this interview. I'm waiting on a FedEx guy, and then he's like, if you hear sirens going off, just don't worry. We'll just cut the interview and we'll pick it up later.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, after he gets bonded out of prison. Yeah.
Yeah, Mike, what are you doing, dude?
Well, at least he will be back.
Do you think this is why he's semi-retired?
Man, he is kind of mailing it in here with this mid-interview delivery pickup. Not that delivery pickup doesn't make sense, but
yeah,
package pickup.
Oh my gosh! Like he probably gave up F Words Pod because he's in the drug pushing business.
Yeah, he's taken up a role in the Sinaloa cartel or something.
Look, I just got done watching Ozark. I know how these things work.
So my mind is working on Navarro cartel side. Yeah. Yeah. He could be the mule. I mean, he's unsuspecting, and we've never seen him dressed like this. Now he's dressed like a guy who makes big decisions.
Right. He was very skittish on his criticism of the Chiefs on Sunday, probably because he doesn't want the KC mob up his ass.
That's true. That is true.
Look, as a guy who went to school in Missouri, I know all about these types. That's for sure.
Yeah, you spring braked in the Ozarks, didn't you?
Oh, without question. Yes. Still do sometimes. Like I won't lie. My in-laws have a place down there that we occasionally go down to.
Yeah. Does she also have like a blonde lawyer that's been missing for?
Yeah, my father-in-law invested into a strip club down there.
Oh,
Yeah.
Lickety Splits, is that what it's called?
Yeah, have you been there?
No, I've heard of it though.
Great show though.
By the way, Lickety Splits, all-time strip club name. Good
Is
job
a great
on the
that,
directors.
and then I love the strip clubs that are like by airports, and they call them the landing strip. That to me is
okay, yeah,
double
that makes a lot of
entendre
sense.
funny. Like that is very well done. Do you think Mike knows we're talking about our favorite strip club names?
The beeping has gotten louder. Makes
feel
me
like
think
he's
he's wrapping up.
Yeah, it makes me feel like that too.
But if we hear a gunshot, do we keep recording or do we?
Yes, but only for court reasons.
Oh yeah, but then they could get our names.
Yeah.
The cartel members.
Are we technically accomplices? If Mike is committing a crime, are the guys interviewing him for a podcast accomplices?
I think it's a fair question, and I hope they're. I wonder if it's ever been done before.
If there are any lawyers that listen to this podcast, any Tupper lawyers, slide into our DMs. Let us know. Slide into our mentions. Let us know.
We just want to make sure we're clean. Our books are clean over here.
Right.
Mike's screen has now gone black.
Oh, here he goes. Oh, here he is. There he is.
Go. We got to get out of here.
Yeah. Oh no. Mike, Jack and I were wondering while you were gone, if you're committing a felony right now and we're interviewing you for our podcast, like, are we accomplices to that crime?
That's a good question. I may have to ask our legal team.
Okay. Our legal team. All right. Yeah. Now, yeah. Semi-retired, meaning, he's retired from F Words Pod, but he's not. Look, he's very much in business, if you know what I mean.
The business. That's right.
Speaking of potential double agents, Jim Schwartz is going to be brought in by the Colts.
That's how we do it here on the Tighten Up podcast. Don't ever take it for granted.
The Colts have requested permission to interview Jim Schwartz, who was kind of in a consultant role when, but it was clear whatever consulting he did, it worked this season. How big of a loss would that be this offseason? And would that really set the defense back, or are you content with, the talent that they have on that side of the ball now?
I do think Schwartz helped probably. I think it's really hard to know how much he helped versus how much it was Danico Autry and Bud Dupree and Zach Cunningham and everybody else that they brought in during the offseason, because I still feel like the number one difference was the talent on that side of the ball this year. But that being said, I'd really hate to see Schwartz go to the Colts. That would be painful, because it would be a really miserable way to find out that Schwartz was like propping up this entire unit for him to go to Indy and Indy's defense be awesome and the Titans defense fall apart. Like that would be miserable. So I think, we should be rooting for Schwartz to stick around, and hopefully someone else gets that Indy job.
Yeah,
I'm with you.
I was laughing when Eberflus took the Bears job, because I was like, that sucks for you guys. And then they were like, now we're looking at Schwartz, and I was like, son of a bitch.
You assholes.
Yeah, Schwartz, like, to me, and look, again, I think your answer was spot on, where it's like, we don't know, but like it very well could be that Schwartz was the reason kind of for this defensive turnaround. And all I'm saying is it's very, I find it to be no coincidence that every time Jim Schwartz is on this staff as like a defensive minded guy, the Titans put together some of their best defenses in franchise
history. Pass rush
history.
is just transformed. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. And obviously I think he is like the epitome of the Peter principle, where it's like, he can only go, like, he can't be a head coach. That he proved that. Right. But defensive coordinator, my goodness, he is a freaking he's a beast.
Mastermind.
Yeah, he's excellent, and I do think Bowen has, proven that he can. I think if Schwartz did leave for the Indy job, I think it's more likely that the Colts defense gets more benefit than the Titans being hurt, if that makes sense. Because I do feel like a year of seeing what works, with Bowen and everything, because obviously Bowen was still calling the defense. Like, it was still his defense at the end of the day. But
yeah,
whatever input Schwartz had, I would imagine Bowen would take what he learned and be able to continue to apply it moving forward. But it's kind of, I don't know. I don't want to find out either way. I hope Schwartz sticks around. I know he likes living here, so who knows? We'll see.
Yeah.
I look at Schwartz kind of consulting Bowen as in high school, I wasn't good at pre-algebra. I was making, C minuses. I needed to pass the class. I was struggling to do it on my own. So I went and found a tutor. I feel like Jim Schwartz was Bowen's tutor this season. And now next year, we'll get to really figure out how much he learned in that one season being tutored by Jim Schwartz. If he leaves, it's not a done deal. They're interviewing multiple guys. All right, Mike.
Wait, who's worse, you at algebra or Bowen at
me
defense?
At algebra? I don't even need to know the second half of that question. Okay, Mike, I'm going to run you three guys. Going to give you three names, and I want you to tell me if you believe that they will be a Tennessee Titan next season, and just a quick thought why.
Ooh, good game. Okay. I like this game.
All right, we're going to start with one of the more popular guys the Titans brought in this year, probably the most popular guy. I'm talking midseason. Deontay Foreman. Is he going to be a Titan next year?
I'm going to say no, simply because I think he played well enough that somebody's going to give him an opportunity to get real work. And I think that's what he's going to look for is I want to be at least a member of a backfield by committee. And he knows that as long as Derrick Henry's healthy, this is the Derrick Henry show in Nashville. So I think despite the fact that the Titans kind of gave him this opportunity and kind of pulled his career, out of nowhere, to a spot where he may get some real looks at a starting role, I think he's probably going to try to strike while the iron's hot and go get that opportunity for a bigger job somewhere else.
All right, my second one, Roger Saffold. Do you think he's a Titan next year?
Oh, that's a really tough one. I'm going to say no, simply because he's going to be 34 years old, maybe 35. I can't remember exactly where he's at birthday wise, but he's definitely well on the wrong side of 30. He really struggled to stay healthy this year. Now he played really well. So when he was right, he still got it, but it's going to be hard for them to justify his price tag if he's not able to play more than if he's not able to finish more games than he did this year. Because I think he played almost all the games, but finishing and being effective was another story at times. So, I tend to think, no, he's not a Titan.
It felt like he would get hurt at least twice a game this season.
Yeah.
He'd come back in, but he would go down quite often.
Yeah.
All right, my last one, the biggest one of the bunch. Harold Landry's contract is up, and he's going to make bank this offseason, whether it's with the Titans or somebody else. Is it as simple as the Titans just kind of giving him a blank check and letting him name his price, or are they going to try and, save as much as they can? They know how important this offseason is.
I think he's a super fascinating guy because he's like 11th in the NFL in sacks over the last 3 years. He had, obviously his breakout year, and he played phenomenally against the Bengals. So he's coming off of like the best career, contract year you could possibly hope for. And he's still only 25 years old. So I think he's going to get paid. I do think he's going to be a Titan, though. I think this coaching staff absolutely loves him. He was one of the first guys that Mike Vrabel mentioned when he talked about guys that provide consistency and guys that are kind of the heartbeat of this team, because one of the things that this team really values are guys that play every week. And not only does Harold Landry play every week, I mean, he's missed 0 games in the past 3 years, but he plays almost every snap. Like, he never comes off the field. I made a joke about, he's obviously going to the Pro Bowl now, and Vrabel's coaching. So I'm like, Harold Landry's going to get 95% snap rate just because Vrabel is not going to take him off the field. He just doesn't know how. So I think he's too valuable to this defense. It's not just what he does as a pass rusher. He's incredible at dropping out into coverage. I know people hate when he does that, but he's really good at it, and it makes their defense harder to figure out because he is good at it. And he's also able to play off the ball. He can do it all. I think you've got to pay him. Now, what that contract and salary looks like will be interesting because he's not a guy that like advanced stats loves. His pass rush win rate is not great. But he's very effective in what they ask him to do, and in this defense specifically. And the front four was the best unit of the entire team this year. I mean, like, what a turnaround from the year before. How could you possibly risk going back to that, wasteland where you can't get pressure? I feel like you've got to pay him, and you've got to keep this front four intact because that may be the best unit on the team again next year.
Yeah. Mike, right after the season ended so abruptly, you tweeted out a to-do list of what you think the Titans need to do this offseason. Now, my question to you is, has that to-do list changed at all? And if so, what is it? Because I'll be honest, my to-do list immediately following the game was like, A, kill myself, and B, everything else basically. So, but now with some time to think and some time to cool down, now kill myself has moved down to like number 4 on the list. So what, where are you at with this, what the Titans need to do this offseason?
Yeah, so I think I said fire Downing, which I don't think is going to happen. I still think they should, because I think a lot of the stuff, especially after going back and watching the game, like I tweeted that out before I'd even gone back and rewatched, which normally I try not to put too much out there reactionary wise before I've actually seen like the all 22 film to where you can actually see what's going on in the secondary, which is where like half the game happens. But I will say I will back off the Tannehill part of the tweet now, because I don't think, unless you could get a Wilson or you could get a Rodgers, which if those guys are available, the Titans should absolutely call and check and see what the price is. And if there's a possibility, I don't think it will be, because the other teams would have to be willing to take Tannehill's contract back, or the Titans would have to find a third party who wanted Tannehill and would be willing to pay his. It's just not likely. So I think unless you're getting one of those like two guys, I think the Titans should probably run it back and try again, and hope you can surround him with maybe the offense that you had in 2020, but the defense that you had in 2021. Like if you could put those two together, that would be the formula. And maybe that means you go get a tight end, you go get another wide receiver who can play when Julio misses half the games next year.
Well, they have one, don't they? Don't they have NWI to do it?
Oh, NWI, baby!
He's actually restricted rights free agent as well. So, I mean, who knows what they decide on him.
Yeah. He's going to get a payday.
Yeah, he ought to.
I do like NWI, but I would like to not see him getting crucial passes on the final drive of potentially the season.
Why? Did it not go well?
Didn't go great. Turns out he was not able to get a ton of separation there.
No. Where NWI flourishes is on like fake punts. That's his wheelhouse right there.
And against the Colts.
Tremendous. One of the best fake punt receivers of all time.
Right.
In my opinion.
And on plays where Tannehill almost gets sacked.
True. He's great at those. So if we could just limit his usage to just that, his effectiveness would be through the roof. But yeah, I do think, I'll back off of the Tannehill bit just a little bit. I think he's got to be the guy next year, for better or worse. And if you want to get a like plan B lined up, I don't have a problem with it. Like if they fall, like let's just say they fall in love with one of these guys in the draft, and they wanted to trade up to number 10 or whatever to get him, or into the top 10 to get him, I don't have an issue with it. Like, you've got to trust your quarterback evaluation. You've got to trust your coach's ability to look at a guy and say, all right, we can take what this guy does well and fit it into our offense and what we do. So if there's a guy that they feel strongly about, I would still love for them to go get a quarterback, because I'd rather have one before you need one than figure out you don't have one. And so I still think if you can go get a young quarterback that you love, I would like to kind of see what Alex Smith to Patrick Mahomes transition could look like here. Now, I'm not saying there's a Patrick Mahomes in this draft. By all accounts, it's like a terrible draft class for quarterbacks. But I'll also say that the 2017 class was supposed to suck too.
Right.
There was a lot of stuff where it was like, oh, none of these quarterbacks are any good. Mahomes is too risky. And Watson turns it over too much. And Trubisky is, just hasn't played enough. And never forget, Trubisky was the one that was the first one taken, and it wasn't that controversial at the time.
Right.
So people don't know shit about quarterbacks. That's one thing that I've very much convinced myself of over the last few years.
Did you know that Tom Brady was drafted 199th overall?
I've heard that once or twice.
That's a fun fact.
But it is a great nugget. And Luke Falk was too. Yeah. So I mean,
their careers turned out about the same.
It's a crapshoot. It really is.
So, the season is still going. We haven't even, the league year hasn't even ended yet. But I'm going to ask you this question because I want to ask you this question. And for the Titans, their season has ended. If the draft is tomorrow, what position are you addressing in the first round?
If I loved a quarterback, it would be a quarterback. If
really?
I don't love any of the, because I think if you love one of these guys and they might last into the middle, of the round or so, and you could trade up reasonably and get one, that's the most valuable asset you can have is a young, great quarterback. And, if they don't think any of them are good, don't do it. But if you can get one, go get one. If it's not a quarterback, I'm going wide receiver, maybe offensive lineman, which I know nobody wants to hear that, but look, you've got
it's worked so well in the past.
You've got to have these guys, and it has not worked out terribly well for them. But at some point they've got to find like the next generation of this offensive line, because from left to right you have like a 31-year-old, a 34-year-old, a 32-year-old, a 24-year-old, and then a 31-year-old. Like it is an old offensive line, and there's not enough backups behind them ready to go. Like I assume Radens is going to play somewhere on the offensive line next year. I don't know what position that'll be, whether it's right tackle or maybe left guard if they do move on from Saffold. Maybe Aaron Brewer could play left guard or center. I don't know how great I feel about him as a starter long term. So that still leaves, even if those two guys are starters, that still leaves at least two guys that are over 30, and you have no replacement at all for them right now. So I think they've got to start building that offensive line of the next iteration of this offense. And the first round, at the end of the first round, it wouldn't be a bad spot to have to pick an offensive lineman if you can find one that, doesn't just like to drink lean and hang out in Miami. I mean, and sleep in meetings. I mean, if we could find one of those, that would be nice.
Those are qualities I'm looking for in an offensive lineman as well. It's funny, Mike, you and I just think so much alike all the time. Does anyone have Cole McDonald's number still?
I still have a lot of love in my heart for Cole McDonald.
So do I. I still I haven't given up, kind of like how I still don't believe that Tom Brady lost to the Rams. Like I still think he's going to come back and beat them and somehow make it to the Super Bowl. I feel the same way about Cole McDonald. Like I haven't given up hope. Like I think he's going to be the guy, the next flying Hawaiian for this Tennessee Titans.
I thought he was one of the Island Boys. I thought he was a part of that group.
Oh my gosh. Has anyone seen the Island Boys and Cole McDonald in the same room?
I don't think so.
He very well could be. Oh my gosh. Look, we're Island Boy, just an Island Boy. All right. Last question, Mike. You've been so gracious with your time amidst your the numerous felonies that you're committing. So we appreciate it. Do you
capers, please? I prefer capers.
Capers, sorry, excuse me. Sorry, you're so high class. Looking like Luke Bryan over here. All right, Mike. This year, Jack and I on this Tighten Up podcast, we always talk about how we want to grow the fan base. # grow the fan base. And because even though the Titans have a very strong and a very loud and a very proud fan base, it's still pretty small comparatively to literally every other NFL franchise in the league because they're young. It's only been around 20 years. It's still fresh in the grand scheme of things. So we always use the offseason as a way to try and get other people to recruit others. Maybe it be NFL free agent fans or just anyone who's just now getting into football, to recruit them to become a Titans fan. This is the time to do it.
Buy transplants.
Right.
Yeah.
Buy low now. So that way, when they do win the Super Bowl, you don't look like a bandwagon fan. So
Right.
Mike, my question to you is, if you've got a friend or you got someone in front of you, it's like, yeah, I'm getting into the NFL, but I don't know which team to pull for. What is your recruiting pitch to that person to become a Titans fan?
Do you like never-ending devastation and a lot of loss in your life?
Mike, no, that's not what we're saying.
Mike, you didn't understand the assignment.
Okay, you want me to lie to my new friends?
It's not lying. It's selling. It's just salesmanship. Kind of like how you give a good sales pitch for the drugs that you're pushing. Like, do the same thing for the Titans.
All right. So how about this? You know that quarterback that just won the Super Bowl? Wouldn't it be cool to root for a team that sacked him 9 times?
Yeah, that's better.
That's a good start. There we go.
Jeffrey Simmons will dispose of Joey Burrow next time he plays him. So I think, just go ahead and get in front of that wagon by joining in with the Titans and watch them crush the Super Bowl champion and literally break his bones.
How far down your list of sales tactics or points about the Titans is T-Rack?
He's right after Buster Screen.
Okay.
That's pretty fair placement. I'm pretty sure that T-Rack could go out there and hold up for at least 10 snaps on defense. Who knows?
Yeah. Hey, I mean, look, he's got a lot of different wardrobes. He's really good with that sideline entertainment. And speaking
that Santa
of
outfit is always fire.
Mm-hmm.
It really is.
He does a great Santa.
The fake beard. Oh, that's so great. I could talk T-Rack all day, but we don't have all day. Mike, we got to let you go because you've been awesome with your time so far. We appreciate you, man. Literally. Also, if the feds are listening to this podcast, just know Jack and I had nothing to do with it. It was just a casual interview about the Tennessee Titans to a semi-retired now, clearly working for the Navarro cartel or something. But Mike, dude, thank you so much. Everyone follow him at Mike Miracles on Twitter. The semi-retired, but still fully great, Mike Herndon. Dude, thank you, Mike.
Appreciate you guys. Have fun, and hopefully we'll have more fun football to talk about soon.
Yeah. Well, August. We'll clear our schedules.
Less soul crushing. 2022. Less soul crushing.
Right.
Let's do it.
You're the man, Mike. We love you.
All right. See you guys.